Underground concrete breathed cold against Rachel Sterling's spine as motor oil scented the air with metallic dread. Her Mercedes keys struck the garage floor with crystalline precision, each echo counting down seconds she didn't have. Two silhouettes materialized from darkness like nightmares given form, their Italian leather shoes whispering threats across polished cement. The woman who commanded boardrooms and demolished competitors now trembled against steel, her empire-building hands shaking as breath crystallized in fluorescent shadows. Torino family soldiers didn't negotiate. They collected. Miss. Sterling, velvet menace wrapped around her name. Some debts require personal attention. Cold metal kissed his fingertips as he reached beneath expensive fabric. Then salvation spoke from behind concrete pillars, voice seasoned with bitter coffee and burned bridges. Wrong father to threaten, gentlemen. Shadows emerged the ghost of her greatest mistake, fingers wrapped around evidence that would resurrect the dead, bury the guilty, and prove that sometimes the fired come back to save those who destroyed them. Alex Mercer stepped into fluorescent light like judgment personified, his shadow stretching across polished concrete like an omen. 4 months of sleepless nights had carved valleys beneath hazel eyes, but his shoulders carried the steady weight of a man who'd learned to count medical bills by heartbeats. Faded denim clung to lean muscle built by desperation rather than gyms, and his polo shirt bore the honest wrinkles of someone who ironed clothes while listening for his daughter's breathing. The Torino soldiers swiveled toward him, confusion flickering across scarred faces that had seen violence but not ghosts. One reached for his weapon with practiced efficiency. Alex raised empty palms, calloused from years of keyboard work and recent months of construction labor. Easy, boys. Nobody needs to bleed in a parking garage. His voice carried the calm of someone who'd faced worse odds in darker places. The accent held traces of Texas, softened by years in the Pacific Northwest, but hardened by military service that most people never suspected. Rachel's breath caught in her throat like trapped smoke. The man she'd terminated stood 3 feet from armed killers, wearing target clothing and the kind of composed dignity that came from having nothing left to lose, except what mattered most. His brown hair needed cutting, curling slightly at the collar. His jeans showed honest wear at knees and pockets. Everything about Alex Mercer screamed ordinary father struggling to make ends meet, except the way he calculated angles and exits with military precision, except the way his eyes tracked weapon positions without seeming to look directly at them. The larger thug shifted weight from foot to foot, gold tooth catching overhead light like a warning signal. His partner remained statue still, professional patience that spoke of expensive training. You picked the wrong family to mess with, computer boy. The first soldier growled, Brooklyn accent thick as molasses. Walk away before this gets messy. We got no beef with you. Alex smiled, the expression holding no warmth but plenty of winter. Snow might melt, but permafrost endured. Funny thing about families. Mine's worth dying for. What about yours? Steel whispered against leather as both men drew weapons with synchronized choreography, black metal gleaming under harsh fluorescent tubes. Rachel pressed deeper into shadow, pulse hammering against ribs like a caged bird desperate for freedom. This couldn't be happening in her carefully ordered world. Alex Mercer was nobody special according to every file she'd reviewed. A fired IT employee with exemplary performance reviews until the end. A single father drowning in medical debt and insurance denials. Yet he faced down armed killers like he'd done it before, like violence was just another skill set, gathering dust until circumstances demanded its use. The garage held its breath, concrete and steel waiting for blood to stain polished floors. Somewhere in the distance, a car alarm wailed its electronic distress call, the sound echoing off walls that had witnessed too many midnight meetings. Alex never flinched when gun barrels swung toward his center mass. His hands remained steady at his sides, no reaching for weapons he didn't visibly carry. "Last chance, gentlemen. Walk away, and we'll pretend this never happened." The words carried weight of final ultimatum, delivered with the quiet authority of someone accustomed to being obeyed. Your boss gets what he really wants. Nobody dies in a parking garage, and tomorrow you wake up in your own beds instead of morgue drawers. You're dead. The first soldier snarled, finger tightening on trigger mechanisms designed to end arguments permanently. "Maybe," Alex said, shoulders shifting slightly, weight redistributing in ways that suggested coiled springs. But not today. What happened next lasted 3 seconds and felt like eternity compressed into heartbeats that thundered against eardrums. Alex moved like water finding cracks in stone, flowing around bullets that sparked off concrete walls in showers of orange sparks and pulverized cement. The first thug dropped when something small and metallic struck his wrist with surgical precision, his weapon clattering across polished floors like dropped cutlery. His cry of pain echoed off bare walls as bones snapped with audible finality. The second man's gun flew from nerveless fingers as Alex's shoulder connected with his solar plexus, driving air from lungs with the efficiency of someone who understood anatomy and pressure points. Both killers hit cement before their fingers could properly squeeze triggers. Unconscious forms sprawled across floors that reflected fluorescent lights like dark mirrors. Rachel stared at the motionless bodies, her rational mind struggling to process what her eyes had witnessed. Violence in movies moved slowly, dramatically, with musical scores and special effects. This had been swift, surgical, professional. Her savior stood over defeated enemies, breathing steady as morning mist, not even winded from dismantling trained killers with the efficiency of someone who'd learned violence as a second language fluently spoken when circumstances demanded. The ordinary IT father had vanished completely, replaced by someone harder, more dangerous, carrying scars both visible and hidden beneath target clothing. "We need to leave," Alex said, extending his hand toward shadows where she cowered. His palm showed calluses from honest work, nails trimmed, short and clean. "They'll have backup coming. Radio silence protocols only last so long before supervisors start asking questions." She didn't move, couldn't force muscle and sinew to obey commands from a brain that refused to accept new reality. This man had lost everything because of her signature on termination papers she'd signed without sufficient investigation. His daughter faced death without insurance coverage that her decision had eliminated. Yet here he stood in underground concrete, breathing motor oil and desperation, offering salvation to the architect of his family's destruction. "Why?" The word escaped before rational thought could stop it, hanging in recycled air like accusation and bewilderment combined. "Why risk everything for someone who destroyed your life?" Alex glanced toward the garage entrance, head cocked slightly as he listened for approaching engines, for radio chatter, for any sound that might indicate reinforcements closing distance. His hearing had been trained to detect threats that others missed, Survival skills honed by deployments where inattention meant death for more than just yourself. Because nobody deserves to die for someone else's greed, and because my daughter needs to see that good people still win sometimes. He pulled a small device from his pocket, fingers moving with practiced ease. A recording app on an outdated smartphone, the kind carried by people who couldn't afford latest technology but understood digital security better than most. Besides, I've been tracking these conversations for weeks. Your business partner has interesting friends in organized crime circles. Rachel's blood turned to ice water flowing through veins that suddenly felt too small to contain the chill spreading through her chest. Marcus Webb's name hung unspoken between them, syllables that would change everything once voiced. Marcus? What does Marcus have to do with any of this? But Alex was already moving toward her Mercedes, checking shadows with practiced paranoia that spoke of places where complacency killed. His movements held fluid confidence, learned in combat zones, where hesitation measured the difference between breathing and bleeding out on foreign soil. Everything, Ms. Sterling. Absolutely everything worth knowing about betrayal, greed, and why sometimes the people closest to us hurt us most. The underground garage 4 months earlier had hummed with different energy, fluorescent lights casting harsh shadows across Rachel's face as she reviewed termination papers with trembling fingers that refused to remain steady. Marcus Webb sat across from her mahogany desk like judgment incarnate, his expensive suit immaculate as always, silver hair perfectly arranged despite the late hour that stretched toward midnight. His cologne carried hints of sandalwood and success, scents that had comforted her through father's funeral and divorce proceedings. The office felt smaller than usual, walls pressing inward with weight of decisions that would destroy innocent lives. "The evidence is conclusive," Marcus said, sliding manila folders across polished wood with the confidence of someone presenting mathematical proof. His manicured fingers showed no tremor, no sign of doubt or conscience wrestling with consequence. Mercer accessed classified client databases after hours on 17 separate occasions, transferred proprietary code to external drives using personal credentials. We have digital footprints, access logs, even security footage showing him entering restricted areas. Rachel studied photographs of Alex entering the building at 9:47 p.m. on a Tuesday that felt like a lifetime ago. Timestamps showed database queries running under his credentials, financial records revealing suspicious deposits that matched client consultation fees with mathematical precision. Bank statements painted pictures of desperation met by windfall profits. Everything aligned perfectly, too perfectly, like pieces of puzzle assembled by someone who understood how investigators thought. "He's been with us for 3 years," she whispered, voice catching on words that felt like swallowing glass. His performance reviews were exemplary until this month. His daughter has cystic fibrosis requiring expensive treatments. Why would he risk everything for industrial espionage when he knew we'd discover the theft? Marcus leaned forward across mahogany surfaces, concern etching lines around pale blue eyes that had watched her grow from teenager to CEO. His expression carried paternal worry mixed with corporate necessity, emotions that felt genuine even as they guided her toward predetermined conclusion. Desperate people make desperate choices, Rachel. Medical bills can drive anyone to extremes they never imagined possible. The sooner we act decisively, the less damage he can cause to client relationships and company reputation. The pen felt heavy in her fingers, weighted with consequences that rippled outward like stones dropped in still water. Alex Mercer's career balanced on her signature. His family's insurance coverage hung by threads of corporate policy. His daughter's treatment options narrowed to what desperation could afford. All balanced on trust she'd placed in Marcus Webb for 20 years. Rachel closed her eyes and signed her name in flowing script that sealed fates beyond her comprehension. The ink dried quickly, permanent as gravestone inscriptions. "I'll handle the termination personally," Marcus said, gathering papers with satisfied efficiency that spoke of plans falling into place. "Clean breaks heal fastest. No appeals, no second chances, no messy complications." That night, Rachel stood at her office window watching city lights blur through tears she couldn't explain or justify. Somewhere below, in Seattle's sprawling darkness, a father was learning that his world had just collapsed without warning or appeal. She pressed palms against cool glass and wondered why necessary decisions tasted like betrayal, why protecting the company felt like destroying innocent families. 3 weeks later, she'd tried calling Alex twice, both attempts reaching voicemail systems that felt like accusations delivered in digital monotone. She'd composed a dozen emails offering consulting work, references, connections that might ease transition into unemployment. None seemed adequate compensation for destroying someone's life based on evidence that felt too convenient, too perfectly arranged. The garage's present reality crashed back like cold water against heated skin as Alex guided her toward her Mercedes, keys retrieved from concrete floors, still warm from recent violence. His movements held fluid confidence of someone comfortable with necessary force, yet his touch remained gentle as he helped her into passenger seat with courtesy that contradicted recent brutality. "Where are we going?" she asked as he adjusted mirrors with professional thoroughness, checking angles that provided maximum visibility. "Somewhere the FBI can't find us. Somewhere safe. Somewhere we can talk without bullets interrupting conversation or corpses cluttering the floor." The engine purred to life under his careful touch, German engineering responding to gentle pressure. Alex drove like he fought, smooth and deliberate, checking rear-view mirrors while navigating underground tunnels toward street-level freedom. Traffic patterns became defensive strategies, route selection guided by principles learned in places where wrong turns meant death. Rachel studied his profile in dashboard light that painted sharp angles across weathered features. The ordinary Eitfather had vanished completely, replaced by someone harder, more dangerous, carrying himself with confidence that spoke of training beyond computer programming. Muscle memory guided his movements, habits acquired through repetition under stress. "Who are you really?" she whispered, voice barely audible above engine hum and rain beginning to tap against windshield glass. "Beyond the personnel file and background checks?" Alex smiled without humor, expression carved from winter stone. "Someone who learned a long time ago that the world doesn't protect good people automatically, so good people better learn to protect themselves and those they love." They emerged into Seattle's rain-soaked streets, where windshield wipers beat steady rhythm against storm clouds that promised heavier weather ahead. Alex took random turns through downtown corridors, doubling back through residential neighborhoods, using traffic patterns to mask their destination with techniques that spoke of professional training. Evasion protocols learned in classified environments where survival depended on unpredictability. Military background? Rachel guessed, watching him scan intersections for vehicles that might be following at discrete distances. "Special forces?" Intelligence services? Army Signal Corps initially. Cyber warfare specialist during 4 deployments that taught me more about human nature than any psychology textbook. He paused at a red light, scanning intersections for threats that others wouldn't recognize. Spent tours making sure enemy combatants couldn't hack our communications, intercept our plans, or compromise our security. Turns out, learning how to break systems teaches you how to build them properly. The light changed to green, permission granted for forward movement. They moved deeper into industrial districts where warehouses squatted like sleeping giants between sodium streetlights that cast yellow pools across rain-slicked asphalt. Rachel's phone buzzed with incoming calls, Marcus's name flashing repeatedly across the screen like lighthouse beacon warning of dangerous shores. "Don't answer yet," Alex said quietly, voice carrying weight of someone who understood timing and tactical advantage. "Let him wonder. Let him worry. Fear makes people careless, and careless people make mistakes. He's probably worried sick about my safety. When I don't come home according to schedule, he knows exactly where you've been tonight. Marcus Webb orchestrated this entire meeting down to parking space selection." The words hit like physical blows delivered by someone who understood anatomy and pressure points. Rachel's chest tightened, breath coming in shallow gasps as implications cascaded through her consciousness like dominoes falling in predetermined patterns. Marcus had been her father's business partner for 20 years, trusted advisor through every major decision. She'd grown up calling him Uncle Marcus, family by choice rather than blood. He'd walked her down wedding aisles when her father couldn't attend ceremonies, held her hand through divorce proceedings that shattered carefully planned futures. "That's impossible. Marcus would never hurt me deliberately. He loved my father like a brother. He's protected company interests through economic downturns and industry upheavals. Protected his own interests." Alex corrected, pulling into abandoned warehouse parking lot where shadows provided concealment from casual observation. He killed headlights, plunging them into darkness broken only by distant neon signs. "Your CFO has been systematically embezzling client funds for 18 months, moving money through shell corporations, inflating operating costs, selling proprietary algorithms to competitors willing to pay premium prices." He produced a tablet from the back seat, fingers dancing across touchscreen with practiced efficiency that spoke of digital fluency beyond basic computer literacy. Financial records cascaded down in green columns that painted pictures of systematic theft, mathematical precision applied to corporate robbery. I discovered the pattern while upgrading security protocols last winter. Database anomalies, authorization discrepancies, payment schedules that didn't match approved budgets. Rachel stared at numbers that represented years of careful planning, millions of dollars diverted through accounts she'd never seen or authorized, client contracts modified after her signature, her own authorization forged on documents approving payments to vendors that existed only on paper. The scope of betrayal stretched beyond simple theft into complete reconstruction of corporate reality. Marcus needed me eliminated before quarterly audits could expose his financial manipulations. So he manufactured evidence against me, framed me for his crimes, and counted on your trust to sign termination papers without independent investigation. The tablet screen reflected against rain-streaked windows, green numbers dancing like accusations in fluorescent light. Rachel's hands shook as she scrolled through evidence that redefined everything she thought she knew about loyalty, family, and the price of misplaced trust. Tonight was supposed to be the final step in his plan. Alex continued, voice steady as granite foundations. Torino family collects payment for Marcus's gambling debts by eliminating the CEO, who might discover his embezzlement during routine audits. Clean slate, new management structure, perfect crime with no witnesses to contradict official narrative. The tablet slipped from nerveless fingers, expensive technology clattering against leather upholstery. Rachel pressed palms against temples, trying to process betrayal that ran deeper than business fraud or financial theft. Marcus hadn't just stolen money from company accounts. He'd destroyed an innocent family to cover his tracks, orchestrated her murder to protect secrets that would unravel under investigative scrutiny. "Ruby," she whispered, her daughter's name carrying weight of guilt and recognition. "Your daughter. How is she managing without proper medical coverage?" Alex's jaw tightened, muscle flexing beneath skin that showed stress lines carved by months of impossible choices. Rain drummed against windshield glass like machine gun fire, percussive rhythm that emphasized silence stretching between them. Dying slowly. Without insurance authorization, we can't afford medications that keep her lungs functioning properly. Her pulmonary function drops every week according to tests we can barely afford. Doctors give her 6 months if current decline continues without intervention. Oh God, Alex, I'm so sorry. I didn't know the full implications. You knew enough. His voice carried no accusation, just exhausted truth delivered without malice or anger. You signed papers that condemned a 7-year-old girl to death by medical bankruptcy. Maybe Marcus fabricated evidence about my guilt, but your signature was real enough to destroy everything I'd built. Silence stretched between them like chasm too wide to bridge, heavy with unspoken grief and guilt that couldn't be undone by apologies or good intentions. Outside their temporary sanctuary, Seattle's neon signs painted warehouse walls in electric blues and reds, kaleidoscope patterns that reminded Rachel of stained glass windows in churches where she'd once believed in justice and redemption. "Why save me?" she asked finally, words barely audible above rain that intensified against metal and glass. "Why risk everything for someone who signed your family's death warrant?" Alex stared through rain-streaked windshield at distant city lights that twinkled like false stars in artificial sky. His reflection showed exhaustion carved deep as canyon walls, determination forged in furnaces of desperation and necessity. Because Ruby asked me a question last week that I couldn't answer properly. She said, "Daddy, if bad people hurt good people, who helps the good people fight back?" I told her that sometimes good people have to help themselves. He turned toward her, brown eyes holding depths of pain and determination that spoke of choices made in impossible circumstances. Tonight, I realized something important. Good people help each other survive, even when it's difficult. Even when it costs everything you have left to give. Rachel's phone buzzed again with increasing urgency. Marcus's name glowing like brand across the screen that separated them from outside world. This time, Alex nodded permission to answer. Tactical decision made with military precision. She swiped to accept incoming call, thumb trembling against glass surface. "Rachel! Thank God you're safe. I've been calling for hours without response. Where are you exactly?" The familiar voice felt like poison flowing through speaker systems, each word carrying perfect notes of concern and worry crafted by decades of practiced deception. Marcus's tone held paternal anxiety that would have sent her rushing home to his comforting embrace if she hadn't seen evidence of his true nature. "I'm fine, Marcus. Just experienced some unexpected car trouble that delayed my return." "Car trouble? In that neighborhood after dark?" "Rachel, that area isn't safe for someone of your profile and position. I'm dispatching private security to escort you home immediately. No need for extra protection. I've got reliable help managing the situation." A pause stretched across cellular connection, silence that spoke of wheels turning behind silver hair and pale blue eyes. When Marcus spoke again, his voice carried subtle edge that most people would miss, predator's instinct detecting prey that might escape carefully laid traps. "Help? From whom exactly? I wasn't aware you had contacts in that area." Rachel met Alex's eyes in rear-view mirror reflection, seeing encouragement and determination reflected back at her. 2 words would expose everything Marcus had built. 3 syllables that would shatter 20 years of careful planning and patient manipulation. Alex Mercer. The silence stretched so long she wondered if cellular towers had failed, or connections dropped without warning. Then Marcus laughed, hollow sound that echoed through speakerphone like breaking glass falling on concrete floors. "Rachel, that's impossible. Alex Mercer was terminated months ago for industrial espionage and corporate theft. He's a disgraced employee with serious financial problems and possible mental instability. Whatever he's told you, he's shown me comprehensive bank records, Marcus. Our bank records. Client accounts I never authorized. Payments to shell companies that don't exist outside of paper trails." Another pause, longer this time, filled with weight of exposed secrets and crumbling facades. When Marcus spoke, his voice had shed all pretense of warmth or paternal concern, revealing cold calculation beneath years of careful performance. "I see. And you believe the desperate word of a convicted criminal over someone who's protected your family's interests for 2 decades?" "I believe mathematical evidence, digital proof, financial footprints that lead directly to your personal accounts through shell corporations designed to hide systematic theft." "Rachel, listen very carefully. You're in extreme danger. Alex Mercer is psychologically unstable, possibly armed, definitely desperate enough to harm you for perceived wrongs. I'm calling police immediately. The police will be extremely interested in these financial records and security footage showing your after-hours database access." The line went dead with finality that spoke of bridges burned and relationships severed beyond repair. Alex started the engine, rain intensifying against windshield glass, like nature's percussion section practicing for Symphony of Justice. That could have gone more smoothly, but at least now he knows we have evidence. Where do we go now? My apartment isn't safe if Marcus has resources to track my movements. FBI field office downtown. Time to turn evidence over to people who can actually arrest corporate executives and freeze assets before money disappears into offshore accounts. They drove through Seattle's financial district, past towers where honest business happened during daylight hours, while shadows hid transactions that would shame honest merchants. Rachel watched her company's headquarters slide past passenger windows, 43 floors of steel and glass that represented her father's legacy and her own life's work. By morning, half those floors might be empty, employees scattered by scandal that would make headlines in business journals nationwide. "Will Sterling Technologies survive this revelation?" she asked, watching familiar buildings shrink inside mirrors. "Can a company recover from systematic fraud by senior management? Depends how deep corruption runs through organizational structure." How many clients Marcus compromised through his schemes? How much trust can be rebuilt through transparent operations and aggressive reform measures? The FBI building loomed ahead, concrete and steel monument to justice that operated around the clock. Alex navigated into visitor parking, choosing spaces that provided clear exits and maximum visibility from security cameras that recorded everything. She nodded, accepting responsibility that felt heavier than Seattle's rain clouds. And Ruby? Will you allow me to help with her medical expenses and treatment costs? Alex considered this while shutting off engine and pocketing keys, weighing pride against pragmatism in calculations that fathers of sick children understood intuitively. Not charity payments. I don't need anyone's pity or guilt money. Not charity. Restitution for damages caused by my signature on fraudulent termination papers. The absolute least I can do is help save her life after nearly ending it. They walked toward Federal Building entrance together, footsteps echoing off wet pavement that reflected streetlights like scattered jewels. Alex turned toward her before reaching security checkpoint, brown eyes holding depths of pain and hope combined. There's something else to consider. When this scandal goes public, Sterling Technologies will need new leadership structure. Someone who understands security systems, corporate fraud prevention, rebuilding client trust through transparent operations. You're offering to return to the company that destroyed your family. I'm offering to help clean up the mess that nearly destroyed both our families. But as Chief Security Officer with full executive authority, not some subordinate-ite position, with complete power to investigate financial irregularities and implement protection protocols. Rachel extended her hand across space that separated them, palm open in gesture of partnership rather than charity. Deal. But first, let's make sure Marcus faces federal justice for what he's done to innocent people. Alex shook her hand, his grip firm and warm, despite cold rain that soaked through inadequate clothing. Justice for corporate crime, and making sure Ruby gets to celebrate her 8th birthday with functioning lungs. They walked toward Federal Building together, carrying evidence that would topple carefully constructed lies and restore truth to its rightful place in corporate boardrooms, where honest business deserved protection from predators wearing expensive suits. Behind them, Seattle's skyline glittered like scattered diamonds against storm clouds that were finally beginning to break, letting starlight through gaps in weather systems that had dominated too long over city where justice wore many faces, but always recognized truth when properly presented. 6 months later, Rachel stood at her office window watching morning sun paint Elliott Bay in shades of gold and silver that promised clear weather ahead. The view hadn't changed significantly, but everything else had transformed beyond recognition. Sterling Technologies occupied only 20 floors now, stripped down to honest core operations after Marcus's federal trial and civil settlements that followed investigative revelations. The company felt leaner, cleaner, more focused on actual innovation rather than financial manipulation disguised as business strategy. Her phone buzzed with incoming call, Alex's name appearing on screen, and bringing automatic smile to lips that had learned to trust again, slowly, carefully. His voice carried confidence earned through months of rebuilding systems that protected rather than exploited. Good morning, Chief Mercer. How's our comprehensive security audit progressing? Clean as freshly printed money, boss. Though I did discover something interesting in quarterly client satisfaction reports that came in yesterday. Oh? Something concerning that requires immediate attention? 97% approval rating across all service categories. Highest scores in company history, according to archived records dating back 15 years. Turns out clients strongly prefer doing business with demonstrably honest people. Rachel laughed, sound carrying genuine joy for first time in months of rebuilding trust, one conversation at a time. Shocking revelation that honesty improves business relationships. Any other earth-shattering discoveries in your investigation? Just one important development. Ruby wants to know if the nice lady boss can attend her birthday party this weekend. Apparently, turning 8 requires cake, ice cream, and corporate executives who know how to operate video game controllers competently. Tell Ruby I'll bring birthday cake, and I've been practicing my gaming skills on puzzle games that require strategic thinking. She'll be absolutely thrilled by that news. Oh, and Rachel, thanks for everything you've done. For what specifically? I feel like I still owe your family more than I can ever repay. For giving a terminated IT father the chance to save his daughter's life. For letting me prove that good people can still win when they work together against corruption. Rachel pressed palm against cool glass, watching tugboats guide freight ships toward open ocean, where honest cargo moved through legitimate channels monitored by customs officials, who understood the difference between legal commerce and smuggling operations. We saved each other, Alex. That's what good people do when they remember how to trust again. She ended call and returned to quarterly reports that painted pictures of steady recovery, rebuilt client relationships, and second chances that grew stronger with each passing day of transparent operations. Outside her window, Seattle stretched toward distant mountains, where snow reflected sunlight like scattered hope across landscape that promised better weather ahead. In a small apartment across town, Ruby Mercer breathed easily for first time in her young life, her father reading bedtime stories without shadow of unpaid medical bills darkening pages or creating anxiety about future treatments. The medications that saved her life bore Sterling Technologies' insurance approval codes, prescribed by doctors who smiled when discussing prognosis that improved weekly. Marcus Webb sat in federal minimum security prison, reviewing appeals that grew thinner with each filing, as prosecutors had built cases using testimony from former associates who'd received immunity deals in exchange for complete cooperation. His former criminal contacts had found new sources of income that didn't involve threatening technology executives in underground parking garages. And somewhere in Seattle's rebuilt financial district, honest business happened under leadership that understood fundamental differences between profit and predation, between success and survival, between price of betrayal and value of redemption earned through transparent operations. Sometimes the fired do return to save those who destroyed them. Sometimes wrong fathers threatened become right fathers protected through systems that value family over profit. Sometimes 7-year-old girls get to see 8th birthdays because good people remembered how to help each other survive corporate predators who wore expensive suits while stealing from innocent families. The sun climbed higher over Elliott Bay, burning away storm clouds that had lingered too long over city where second chances grew like flowers after spring rain, where justice wore faces of ordinary fathers who learned that protecting family meant protecting everyone worth saving from those who confused profit with theft. In the end, that's what good people do when they remember their true purpose.